saved Egypt, rallied Hattusa, and settled Canaan. Now, prepare to tear it all down as you command the destiny of the Sea Peoples. Claim a new home for the Peliset, or let the world crumble as the Shaden. 1 new culture, 2 new playable factions, 2 additional royal traditions, 37 new unique units, a whole boatload of new horde and settled buildings, ancillaries and titles, and enough fancy hats to make any pharaoh blush. All this and more in the Total War Pharaoh High Tide free update. As always, you can find out more about the free update and all other official channel information by following the links below, but stick around to learn more about the Shaden and the Peliset, and why they pose such a significant threat to Bronze Age civilization. We'll start with the Shaden, a violent people led by Yoleus, who believes himself to be the brother of the sun god Isu. Mad or not, his destructive philosophy has been fully embraced by his followers. The Shaden arrive on the shores of Anatolia and face the same conundrum as their Peliset rivals: settle or pillage. Fresh off the boat, we have naught but our possessions and a dream, and whilst the promise of tending the land and being productive members of Bronze Age society may appeal to some, the Shaden answer to a higher call: fire and gold. To be the best raiders we can be, we'll embrace the War Spoils panel. Here we can quickly locate settlements that, once sacked or razed, will offer a resource we're in need of. Further, we can locate nearby settlements that will offer additional conquering incentives. These include war supplies, unit experience, increased map visibility, recruitable native warriors, a fresh pool of camp labourers, and exotic ancillaries. With that in mind, we're keen to expand the Shaden's roaming camp, so we'll find the closest settlement that offers camp labourers to give a boost to our productive capabilities. Further along the Levantine coast, Sinai and Canaan reluctantly make way for a budding new empire. The Peliset, led by Patriarch YOHOYO, have claimed both the Megiddo and Ashkelon provinces, but are far from satisfied. As with the Shaden, the Peliset arrive as a horde and cannot innately settle. We must first acquire the New Lands Royal Decree. You'll notice the Sea Peoples have specific types of royal decrees they can enact: hybrid focus, horde focus, or settled focus. For YOHOYO and the Peliset, we'll be exploring the settled decrees, which have a focus on civilization and resource building. In the Royal Traditions window, we're able to pursue both the Egyptian and Hittite courts, though the cost of entry is triple that of native contenders. Thankfully, the Sea Peoples are not too keen on foreign thrones and have sailed across the Mediterranean to forge their own path. But will that path leave ash in its wake? Or life? The path of the Marauders offers unique ways to kill and devastate, whilst the path of the Sea Peoples encourages different playstyles, growth, and stability. For the Peliset, we'll select the path of the Sea Peoples, which does not tie us into a settled style of gameplay. Where we come from matters little. It's our actions that define who we are. For the Sea Peoples, only actions can prove their intentions, meaning we amass points relative to how we conduct ourselves on the campaign map. Dwelling and blade points are gained based on the units and generals we recruit, and the settlements and outposts we construct. There are horde and settled variants of both blade and dwelling points, and your total scores determine your ship's placement on the graph. Each graph tile offers specific boons to emphasize your chosen style of gameplay. For example, to be a primarily settled faction, the Peliset would aim to collect settled dwelling and settled blade points, which would place them in the top right quarter of the graph. No decision is final, and our playstyle can be altered at the drop of a dime. Indeed, the Sea Peoples must be as fluid as water if they hope to survive in these hostile lands. To that end, armies can be converted to settled or horde at the click of a button, and our blade points are updated accordingly. This locks the army out of horde building chains, and they can no longer recruit horde units. To truly become a settled people, the Peliset must expand their territory. The Sinai Peninsula will be a good starting point for our Pelestu Empire. Meanwhile, the Shaden's lust for riches and ruin has taken them down the path of the Marauders. Raise and exterminate is just one new tool Yoleus and his ilk employ to spread horror and mayhem across Anatolia. Power and dominion are the aim of the game for the Shaden. To effectively destroy the world, we'll need to earn eminence points, a currency we'll use to terrorize, scheme, and annihilate our opposition, which are earned by winning battles and raising settlements. An impossible fight can be made winnable with a promise of glory. Some soldiers are loyal to power and power alone, and will turn on their brothers at a whiff of a strong leader. Likewise, sometimes your prowess is such that you'll dominate an entire population and incite them to turn on their masters, tear their city to the ground, and join your cause for a time. Some armies cannot be bribed or turned to infighting, and so a display of power can be used to convince them of your mettle and strike fear into their hearts. Whilst ravaging the land, we'll capture some strategic locations and build Naragihi towers. These handy pit stops offer a few helpful benefits like food production or a stationable garrison to assist during sieges. The effects on offer change depending on if the outpost is positioned in a raised, foreign, or occupied region. We're building 2 towers outside of Hattusa, and we'll use them to rest our troops and say a prayer to Isul. When the time comes to attack, we can rely on the camp's garrisons to reinforce us. In the meanwhile, we'll upgrade our tribal gatherings building into a tribal assembly and get ourselves some dedicated camp defenders. Hattusa will be a tough fight, so we'd best start looking into recruiting some fiercer units. We'll also build a tier 2 idol of Isul, granting us considerable favour, meaning we can devote Yoleus to his brother god. But Isul is not the only god on offer, and the Sea People's deities are as diverse and wild as they themselves. The Peliset started their journey in worship to Kuvava, the mountain mother, but her ways are harsh and warlike, and while Wetes has commanded his people to instead take up prayer for Levez, who offers a more level-headed philosophy. After all, it takes both plough and sword to make a people, and both plough and sword have allowed us to upgrade our chieftain's compound into an estate, pushing us further into the realm of the legitimate. We'll aim to establish a royal tribal palace next, primarily for the happiness, and look to further our use of oxen caravans. In Sinai, the Peliset are making considerable progress. Indeed, Nebgehez is the last foreign power remaining in the region. We've stuck to our goal and are largely a settled faction, but we've held on to a horde army as a precursor to invasion. Their role has been to seed discord and discontent ahead of our full army's arrival. While Wetes and his forces follow close behind, and his trapper ancillary helps to fatigue the region's defenders. Our horde army has surrounded the capital and built the necessary siege equipment, while Wetes has dealt with nearby fort garrisons and standing armies. We'll begin our final siege shortly. But, as it's Shemsu Hor, and we've not used our faction command, we have access to oxen carts in the special recruitment tab. We'll add a unit to Wild Wetes' army and begin the invasion proper.
Put your strength to use.
To say the Peliset are honourable might be a bit of a stretch, but they do abide by their own rules of engagement. As such, generals with the champion in single combat title can initiate single combat with the enemy general. A successful use of the title rids Nebgehez of its garrison general and makes for an easier conquest. The Shaden are even less honourable and would gain the upper hand in combat by any and all means. Yoleus' scouts give us a considerable foresight advantage for better strategic planning, and the bonus to port raising can keep us going for longer without need of a rest. Further, on a successful use of the First Blade title, we can fake out the Hittite standing army, driving them into the awaiting swords of a nearby ambush. With the odds turned in our favour, we'll activate our faction command heat of the battle to wait for the perfect attacking weather conditions before striking at the heart of the Hittites' cultural identity. Amongst the 37 new units on offer, the Shaden boast various melee and ranged, light, medium and heavy armour wearing warriors to suit every occasion. From the Shaden warband to the Naragi seasoned harpooneers, Yoleus' hordes will take until nothing remains. Akin to their Shaden cousins, the Peliset are equally as diverse and varied, ready for any and all conflicts they may face. None are as ready to claim new lands as the renowned Palastu swordsmen. None, perhaps, than their horde-like counterparts, the Peliset Marines. The seas awaken, and new threats approach the shores of civilization. High tides both sweep away and bring unexpected treasures. Will you embrace the collapse, carve yourself a home, or become a nomad? To survive the trials ahead, you must be as fluid and as violent as the sea. What will you become? Let us know in the comments below, or follow our links to find out more.